Greetings, my fellow nerds. I'm Chris. Welcome back to Dees Nerds. And today we're going to be doing my favorite Stephen King movies for the Halloween season. So as we make our way through the Halloween season, we really have a broad variety of films we like to watch. Majority of them, I would say, pretty much fall squarely into the horror genre, but there's also a bunch of other things that we watch. Parodies. Charlie Brown. The Great Pumpkin. Of course, you've got to watch that. That's required viewing. But I was thinking about like just different areas, and of course Michelle had a great video that she put out, about movies for Halloweenies, basically people who don't want to be scared that much. And me, I don't consider myself that much of a Halloweenie. I actually really love scary movies and horror films. So I was thinking about like what subset I really wanted to talk about, as we get kind of closer to Halloween. And immediately, one of the first ones that came to mind was Stephen King. Um, one of the great authors of all time, and I feel like his stories translate really well to the film medium. It just seems like very more often than not, the film adaptation is a very good adaptation of it. Now, whether he agrees with that or not, I definitely defer to his good judgment. I mean, after all, he is the originator of these great stories. But I very rarely do I run into a really bad adaptation. So what I thought I would do, there's really no rhyme or reason to this video. It's just mainly the ones that I seem to look at during the Halloween season and say, we've got to take a look at this, we've got to watch this, just so we can kind of go through and kind of go through my recommendations. All right, so I figured we would get the two really important ones out of the way the first time. I mean, these two are considered really classic movies. One of them I know Stephen King doesn't like that much, which is completely okay. But we'll talk about that one a little bit. But the first one is Carrie. I mean, what else can you say about this film? Really, it's interesting that this is something that we consider kind of required viewing for Halloween time, because really it's not that much of a horror movie until like the last 20 minutes, and then it's on. I mean, and it turns on, and it's completely crazy there from here on out. But I mean, it's just a great film in general. I mean, it was nominated for a ton of Oscars. Sissy Spacek was nominated for Best Actress. Piper Laurie was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. The story is very interesting, and you really, really sympathize with Carrie. I think she's one of the more interesting characters that Stephen King has ever come up with. This one pretty much is top one or two when you talk about great film adaptations of Stephen King stories, and it deserves it. It absolutely deserves its status. It is so compelling a story, and I think there's also the side of Carrie being bullied. I think everyone has had that experience at some point, so it really hits. It really hits in the chest how much that hurts when you're on the receiving end of that. So I think there's a lot to relate with in the story, and like I said, the last 20 minutes of it is just, it's absolutely crazy and awesome and scary. I can't recommend it enough. It's a classic for a reason. All right, the next one is The Shining. Come on, what else can you say? I mean, good Lord, what a movie. I mean, so many iconic moments and lines. Of course, the "Here's Johnny" and "Come play with us forever and ever." I mean, it's such a creepy movie, and even parts of it that are it moves so slowly, and as the movie goes out, even the slow parts have this sense of dread to it. It's just a great film. It's another classic film. Now, I know that this is one that Stephen King is not a fan of. He's not a fan of what Stanley Kubrick did with his story. Matter of fact, he was so not a fan of it that he ended up doing another version where he himself kind of controlled that. I think it was a mini series for NBC, I think. You might fact check me on that, make sure later on, like about 15, 20 years later. So, he clearly didn't like this, but and I definitely want to defer to his good judgment. Again, he's the one that came up with the story, but I really adore this film, and it is a dense movie. I mean, you look at all the theories that are behind this film. I mean, I, if you really want to go down a rabbit hole, just start going on YouTube or going on Google and just type in, the Shining film theories, and you will go down a deep dark hole. I mean, it's crazy the amount of stuff and the different inferences that people take from things that I wouldn't even think about. And it's like, oh wow, okay, that does make sense the way you're pointing it out, but not even knowing really what Kubrick or King in the story itself had really to say, or whether or not that's even true or not. It's amazing the theories that came out of that. But I mean, Jack Nicholson, amazing performance as Jack. Um, Shelley Duvall, um, she's great as Wendy. She is so mousy and so, I don't know, like meek and mild, and she's a pushover almost. I mean, she's almost, to me, she's really grating on the nerves, but I think that was kind of the point. Danny Torrance in the movie. I forget who played that. Let me look that up real quick. Who played Danny? Danny Lloyd. Played Danny on that. I mean, it was as a little kid. It was a great performance on his end too. He was so creepy. Red rum, red rum. I mean, this is just a classic movie. Great performances, great lines, great. I mean, everything about this movie is so flawless and scary, and I just adore this film so much. And I can't mention The Shining without also mentioning the sequel to The Shining, Doctor Sleep. This is a fantastic follow-up to The Shining. Ewan McGregor plays Danny Torrance, an adult Danny Torrance, who basically discovers this girl named Abra, who also has the shine, and she's basically being hunted by a group that basically seeks kids with the shining to basically steal their energy. So this is a really great follow-up. We didn't see it in theaters. We bought the Blu-ray and watched it, and we kicked ourselves for not going to see it in theaters. And we watched the director's cut. This director's cut is really, really long. I mean, it's 180 minutes. It's 3 hours. It's a really long movie. It did not feel like a really long movie watching it. It was full of suspense, and again, great follow-up. I absolutely adore this one as well. All right, this is one that really doesn't. Whenever I see like lists of great Stephen King adaptations, I don't really see this one a whole lot, and it's based on a short story. It's not an actual novel, but I love this movie. Michelle adores this movie, but we love 1408. Samuel L. Jackson, John Cusack. John Cusack gives a great performance in this, and this film it's very terrifying to me. I mean, I love this film so much when they create this sense of dread about the room that he's checking into, that when he finally does and things are just kind of normal, you're just like going, this doesn't feel right. This feels off. And when it finally kicks in and stuff starts happening, like it's kind of freaky, and it really runs you down the rabbit hole. There's some scenes in it that as a parent, I think they really hit home now, kind of dealing with the death of a child and going into John Cusack's character's past. It really hits home, and then they run him through the ringer. I mean, that dude, like, he's basically brought down like the depths of hell, basically, and then he thinks he's out, and it kind of goes from there. I won't spoil anything else from on that if you haven't seen it, but man, what a great movie. It's got a few different endings. I've seen a couple of them. We had a DVD, and actually I like that ending better than the one that's on the Blu-ray, but it doesn't ruin it enough for me to not to watch this. I mean, it's still a really good film regardless of what the ending is, but definitely recommend that one. All right, so our next one is Christine. Whenever if you would have told me that going in this would be a movie about a haunted car, I'd say, okay, this is probably not going to be very good. But then you add the fact that it's Stephen King with kind of that this is based off of. Then you add in that it's John Carpenter, Halloween, Escape from New York, The Fog, all those. I mean, plenty of other great films, is directing, and you have the makings of a fantastic movie. And the thing is, The cast, I mean, I really don't remember them from anything else. It's kind of a cast that's not that well known. There's not like a huge star in it really, but man, they do a great job. It's a great story. It's I wouldn't say it's like really scary. Like I'm not like hiding my eyes scary, but it is kind of got a creepy atmosphere. And as you watch, you know, this kid, get this car and restore it, and you see his his personality change, and he becomes much more, just kind of a mean, so and so. I won't say, I'll keep it PG or G rated or whatever. But as he kind of becomes more of a jerk, and basically the car is like talking to him, and the car is haunted as well. So like if they go in and they bust out the windshield and do anything else to it, really damage it, well, it just kind of bends back and repairs itself basically. So as that goes on throughout the movie, like it definitely amps up towards the ending, which is a really great ending. uh, it's just a really fun, creepy, haunted car movie that I really honestly didn't wouldn't have thought on the face of it that I would like. But again, leave it to Stephen King to write it, to have a compelling story that you can do that with a haunted car, and leave it to John Carpenter to craft a great movie version of that. All right, so the final two movies I'm going to talk about are It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. Now, I remember growing up as a kid and watching the Tim Curry, I guess, TV miniseries, and we've got it on Blu-ray as well. And I still maintain, Michelle's kind of like, meh, it's okay. I still maintain it's a great version, and I still like to pull it out and watch it quite a bit. Um, these these versions, of course, they came out here in the last few years, and it's the I forget who the director was on that. That was Andy Muschietti, yeah. And of course, he's gonna be one that's doing the new Flash movie coming up here in the next couple of years. And I mean, he really hits the nail on the head and understands how important in this story that the kids are, and finding really good child actors that have great chemistry together. Michelle was actually, she had not seen the Tim Curry version, and she'd not read the book before we went and watched these in the theater. And so she really didn't have an idea. She was really wary of, because a lot of times clowns kind of freak her out. But I kind of understand where she's coming from. But as we were watching it, she ended up loving the film, and kind of talking to her, I was like, okay, well, there's some things in it that you don't like. So what made this version different? She's like, it's the kids. The kids are amazing. And, it basically, to her, it's like the Goonies, but the horror version of the Goonies. And I've kind of thought about it, and I think she's right. I mean, it really depends on the child cast in the first one and in the second one, as they do flashbacks to that one. They're just, I mean, the chemistry is amazing. It's phenomenal. Um, and which Skarsgård, I forget which Skarsgård it was that did that. Bill Skarsgård is Pennywise. And he is so creepy and terrifying. And a lot of it I found out, like if you like, I've seen, I think it was an interview on like Conan O'Brien, where he can kind of like do that smile, and he can kind of do his eyes a little bit like that, and that's all kind of natural. He's really creepy as Pennywise. And then as you move into It Chapter 2, I know that film has its detractors, and I know that also there are people that don't like that part of the story for Stephen King, for the book itself. But I really enjoyed It Chapter 2. I thought they got great grown-up versions of those characters. So like when they're kids to whenever they're adults, it makes sense. Um, you know, and honestly, like the kid or the adult cast really works well, and they have great chemistry too together. And Bill Hader, nearly steals the whole thing. I mean, it's just it's a great continuing story. I was so worried when It Chapter 1 came out, and I loved it because I knew It Chapter 2, it is the weaker part of the story. The kids part of the story is the strong part of the story, and the adult part is definitely the weaker part. But I thought, once again, they figured it out, and they were able to wrap it up in a way that really made a lot of sense, tied everything back with the first one really well, did a lot of great flashbacks to the with the first one and those kids. And I thought the actually the CGI to kind of de-age them a little bit actually looks really good. And so I mean it's a good job. I mean it's all one complete story to me now, and it's just fantastic. I adore these films. I'll watch these even if it's not Halloween. I mean they're great films. All right, so those are my favorite Stephen King movies to really watch during the Halloween season. I would love to hear your suggestions on it. I know I left a ton of Stephen King adaptations on the cutting room floor, so to speak. Please let me know what your favorite Stephen King movies to watch. You know, favorite scary ones. I mean, of course, plenty of other ones that aren't even scary. From like the Shawshank Redemption, the Green Mile, different things like that. But let me know what your favorite Stephen King film adaptations are in the comments as well. Please subscribe to our channel if you like what we're doing here at Dees Nerds. Hey, we're two nerds on one channel. We're talking about the nerdy stuff we love, and if you want to get involved, also ring that bell icon so you know whenever we have new videos coming out. Hey, we're also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and we're posting material there pretty much daily, so please follow us there. And guys, we appreciate all of our subscribers so much. We're currently, I think, at 115 now. I mean, I'm just blown away by the support and everything as we're doing this channel. We're having so much fun doing it and sharing content with you. So, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Chris, and we are Dees Nerds. You guys have a great, safe rest of the day, and happy Halloween. Bye, guys.